Welcome to the Draknek and Friends official podcast, where we peel back the curtain on puzzle games and the people who make them. I'm Syrenne, the producer at Draknek and Friends, and I'm joined as always by Alan Hazelden, the head Draknek at Draknek and Friends.
Hi there.
Today, we're joined by Priscilla Snow, who you may know from both the podcast you're currently listening to, as well as their works on games such as Spooky Express, A Good Snowman is Hard to Build, Patrick's Parabox, Immortality, Jet the Far Shore, and others. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Hello.
Don't forget Skin Deep.
Don't forget
Skin Deep.
And like I said, and others. There's so many games. I, of course, am going to drop one or two off the list. So, yeah, other than the sort of gameography, can you introduce yourself to our listeners and kind of let them know what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I am a composer and a sound designer, predominantly working in games. I've been working in games since about 2014 when I started making little twine games with my partner. And just ever since then, I've been working on more and more games, and I have a blast doing it. I really enjoy just audio in general, working with audio. I did a little bit of it in the theater back when I was in college. And I don't know, I started doing it for games and I kind of never turned back.
Awesome. Yeah, so what got you into games?
So like I said, my partner and I worked on some twine games together back when we were both in college. And it was really funny because my partner's Kevin Snow, narrative director type these days. But back in 2014, they had made a twine game called The Domovoy, and it didn't have any audio. There were actually people who would play the game and record a Let's Play and add their own audio to it. So when they showed it to me, I was like, hey, do you want me to add some audio? Like I've done this kind of thing, in theater and such, and I think I could figure it out. And so that was the first time I added audio to anything, interactive online. And then I just kept going from there. We made a couple more twine games. I worked on Voyager with Bruno Diaz, who's another really great narrative person in games. And yeah, it just kind of blossomed from there. The next, I think, bigger game project I actually worked on was A Good Snowman is Hard to Build. So,
and we were trying to find out how that happened. So, Alan, you take it from here.
Do you, had we met at a GDC before I reached out to you for A Good Snowman, or was that a cold email? I do not remember.
I don't remember either. I remember getting a message and just hearing that you were looking for someone. But yeah, I honestly don't remember. I know we met, I think we might have met briefly at a GDC, but our first one was in 2017, so it's very plausible that happened. But I don't have a very strong memory of how one thing led to another. I remembered being very excited when I got when you reached out to me. I was like, oh, this is really exciting, because I had always enjoyed puzzle games and that kind of thing. And I thought the vibe of the game was really nice. And I was excited to write some music for that, world and everything.
Nice. Yeah, because I definitely met your partner before I sent that email. And yeah, that was in 2018. The game itself released in 2015, and then we rescored it in 2018. And so yeah, it's possible that I met you at GDC 2017 or 18. It's also possible that I just was aware of your work from Voyager, although I didn't actually play that game. But it's I think it's the kind of game that a lot of musicians I knew really liked that soundtrack, so I was aware of you via that, maybe.
That's so funny.
But yeah, since you did that, you've done so much else that I had kind of forgotten that you weren't a well-known musician when we contacted you.
Yeah. I remember that being one of the, and I had also done the sound design for the when we redid the audio in the game, and that was my first like. I remember like getting all the assets rendered out and like sending those over, and we were controlling things in a JSON file. And
Yeah, the audio pipeline for that game was
No.
not
it was
complicated.
wild. It was so funny. But it was funny because like I hadn't really like I had used a little bit of Fmod because I started teaching myself Fmod in 2017, but I hadn't actually used it on a project. And so like I didn't I didn't have any like
Yeah,
expectations
we just
about what
gave you this project and this existing audio pipelines, like you would have been like, well, I guess this is how it's done.
Yeah. I was like, I have no preconceived notions. I'm like, this is fine. I can work with this. But yeah, I think also weirdly enough, working in the JSON file, like I actually did a little bit of that on Skin Deep. So recently I had to do a little bit of that again, which Brendan helped a lot with like setting things up. And then I just kind of like copied the template when I was like introducing new pieces and things like that. But it was really funny to kind of be like, oh, I'm back here again. And it also like, I don't know, I feel like it was weirdly satisfying to work in that way because it is so no frills. And it kind of reminded me of the things you have to do to get like interesting audio in a Twine game because of how limited it is. So you're having to do a lot of things like setting delays and like setting fades and things like that by just like writing it out, like set fade 0.2 or whatever. And so like I had already been doing that very like text file type audio design working in Twine. So yeah, it was totally fine by me, but I do like my Fmod these days.
And I think you're having a lot of fun with Fmod on Spook Express. Like I
am.
I don't know if you want to like geek out about some of the fun tricks you've been doing recently.
Yeah, sure. I've been having a lot of fun doing more like I don't know what other people refer to it as because like I said, I've kind of just taught myself Fmod over the past decade just using it. But I refer like there's these things you can use and place on your timelines called command instruments. And I kind of refer to using those as like creating internal logic within Fmod. So a lot of times when I'm setting a parameter or I want a parameter to update in order to control a piece of music, I actually need to reach out to the programmer and have them put that logic in on the Unity side of things. So that's kind of like external logic. But whenever I'm able to use these like not snapshots, that's a whole different thing. When I'm able to use these commands within Fmod and I create these kind of like references between different events that are playing, I refer to that as like internal logic because I'm doing everything within Fmod. But so for instance, the other day we decided to implement pausing the music whenever you finish a level so that we're not constantly bombarding you with just the beginning of like, if you're solving puzzles very quickly and it's triggering a new piece of music every time, you're just going to hear like the beginning of a song and then move on. And it's, not very pleasant, I guess, or it doesn't feel great. And so we introduced a pause. Our programmer went in and, called the Fmod pause function. And what I ran into was like, oh, this works great. It works exactly like I want. But the music is just suddenly stopping and suddenly restarting or suddenly resuming. And so there's no fade down or fade up. And so it's, very abrupt. And at first I thought I was going to have to get, a parameter to be set up on the Godot side. I think I said Unity earlier. We're doing this one in Godot. But, I was thinking about it and then I was like, well, maybe I know what's playing every time we're, using this function, and it's the winning loop. When you've won a puzzle, we trigger this loop of music that plays, and it's always going to be that. That's the only thing that's playing when we're using this pause function. So I went to that event that holds that piece of music, and I put a command instrument. and I used it to set a new parameter I created that is basically just checking if the music is paused, because if that music is playing, the other level music is paused. And so when we call the winning loop music, that command updates a parameter, and that parameter is applied to all of the possible music events that can play in the levels. And it is tied to the volume automation on the master track of that event. And if it's paused, it gets set to, true is paused, and the volume automates down to 0. And it's set to a seek speed, which also just means that rather than going from 0 to 1 immediately, it'll actually lerp. Is that the word? Lerp the values between. And so it creates a nice smooth fade, and it's not jarring, and it feels nice and polished. So
yeah, and you just set all of this up in Fmod, no programmer time required. You're
exactly.
Just fiddling.
Yeah. It's really satisfying. Like the thing I like about Fmod is it does sometimes feel like I am solving a puzzle. It's just puzzles all the way down.
Yeah, then you get to experience that. With Fmod in Godot, is there anything that you're noticing that's like significantly different than Fmod in Unity, or is it really just like Fmod is Fmod and you're comfortable in your work environment?
Yeah, I've been actually really surprised by how well Fmod works for Godot. Because as far as I know, it's not like officially supported, but like there's a good community of people, and the people making Godot that seem to be really active and supporting this, utility. Which is great because it is such a useful tool. I think so far, and I don't know if this maybe has been fixed since then. I haven't tested it since we updated to what is this, 2.3.3, something like that. Yeah, 2.03.03 is the version we're on right now. And I haven't tested this yet, but when we were on the previous version of Fmod, so far the only thing I could find in Godot that wasn't working as intended was the asynchronous seek speed, which means you can set two different lerp speeds based on if you're going to or from the value. And it's really handy in certain scenarios where you want something to, fade up quickly, but when you set the value back down, you want it to like go down, go back to 0 slowly, or whatever value you're traveling between. And so far, that's like really the only thing I've run into. That and the live update is like not as reliable, I guess, as when using it with Unity. So the live profiler isn't quite as robust. It does work. I'm able to see like what events are playing, which that alone is really useful for troubleshooting. Like if something's firing when we don't want it to, or we can't tell like what sound effect is firing, we just know something's firing weirdly. We can go in and look at that, and that's really helpful for diagnosing things like that. But yeah, for the most part, like it really like has been very seamless going from Unity and Fmod to Godot and Fmod, which is great because I really like Godot.
Great. Yeah, there was like some initial issues with the Godot Fmod implementation where it was like a very rare cases causing crashes. But then we figured out a repro for that and took it to the maintainers of the Godot Fmod API, and they just fixed it really quickly. So
yeah, it was awesome. I
yay
was like,
for open source.
Exactly. I was like so impressed by how quickly that happened.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love open source software. I love Godot. Like it's great. We had Adam DeGrandis on. I don't know the order of episode releases at this point.
I think it's going out before this one.
Yeah, I just don't know how much before this one, but like, yeah, he is Godot's biggest hater, but even he loves the spirit of Godot. So keeping on Spooky Express for a minute, what like inspires you about the spooky setting?
Oh boy, you've opened a big can of worms. I just love, like, I'm a big Halloween nerd. Like almost every year I do like a really elaborate Halloween costume and do like a silly photo shoot. And, like I just, I was a theater kid. I love wearing costumes and all of that. So that's like a big thing is I just love Halloween, but I love fall in general because it's one of the two good times of year, fall and spring, when the temperatures are not extreme in either direction.
Thank you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then I'm allergic to spring.
No, oh, yeah, well, same, but like at least I can wear either a sweater or shorts, like it's I don't care. I'm sneezing, it's fine. I've got allergy pills. But yeah, I don't know. I've always loved the fall. Always been a big Halloween nerd since I was a kid. And I really also, I think around the time I got into college, I also got really into horror movies. Watching a lot of, because before then I really didn't watch many horror movies. I think I watched like The Others when I was in like 7th grade or something like that, and that was pretty much the only scary movie I watched until college. I don't know why, I just always shied away from them, and then I found out that I'm a big horror nerd. I have a copy of Dario Argento's Deep Red on VHS on my desk, so it's I like all kinds of horror. I have a really big soft spot for like 1970s and like even earlier horror. Like I really love the cheesy practical effects and the Hammer movies and all of that, like classic horror, scary monsters, Frankenstein and Dracula and the Mummy and the werewolf and all that. Like I love all of these old horror franchises and monsters and such. And so yeah, I just I like to be in a spooky mode. I enjoy. I mean my branding for my work I do has been Ghoul Noise since 2017. Because back then I was like really interested in working on horror games. And I was like, oh, I want to do like spooky sound effects and like really creepy ambiences and that kind of thing. So it's kind of been in my DNA the whole time. But yeah, I really have been having a blast working on Spooky Express. It's a really great mix of like spooky things, but it's all very cute and very like, dare I say, wholesome. So it's been good. It's been a boon to work on in terms
Yeah.
of creativity and inspiration.
Yeah, no, I'm glad. It's definitely a type of vibe that I associate with you, even though, like, I mean, I work with you. This is not the first, this is not the second time I've worked with you, but also, like, I follow you on Blue Sky, and I'm like, yeah, there's just a strong brand there.
It's true. I cannot hide my love of spooky things. It's a deep and never-ending well.
So do you still, like, are you still out here looking for horror games that you want to score for, or like have you found different ways to scratch that kind of itch? Have you fallen, like, has there been anything that you have composed for that has like recontextualized what your goals are?
Um, as far as music goes, I really haven't gotten to write much music for horror. On the sound design side of things, I definitely got to play in the space for Immortality, like very visceral, psychological horror type of beat. Which I do find like really really fun. I'm also working on Project C right now, which is another Half Mermaid FMV game that's in production. And on Immortality, I had this kind of joke of like, I know I'm doing a good job with the sound design when I give myself a tummy ache, and so we kind of just use that as like a term where it's like, is this a tummy ache sound? which is really funny to me. But it's true. Like some sounds they can give you a tummy ache if you're having to like listen to it for a long time. Um, but yeah, so that was definitely like something I had a lot of fun with. On Immortality, was working on those like really visceral, like I said, like psychological horror types of sounds, and bringing that kind of feeling into different elements of the sound design, and making it like both useful in terms of gameplay and also like effective in terms of like the feeling it gives you when you hear it in context in the game. So that was a lot of fun. I still would love to do audio on like a, I don't know, first person horror game of some type, like literally of any fidelity. I don't care if it's like fully realism or it's like low poly PS2 vibes. Like I just I would love to be able to score something that has like a storyline and it has some like real scary moments in it. So that's something I would still be like very eager to do in the future.
Horror Sokoban, you heard it here first, Alan.
Look, I think that would be fun.
Yeah,
Uh,
we could make that work. I mean,
Uh,
there's actually a surprising number of horror puzzle games.
mhm.
yes.
I played
Um,
Scorn, some of it. I started
sure.
I so here I did enjoy Scorn. But then for some reason it made me really sleepy. I don't know how that game put me to sleep, but like every time I would
just bored.
I don't
Just,
know. Like
it's another HR Geiger inspired infrastructure. I can't. Good night.
but I enjoyed like a number of hours and then I got sleepy. But I did enjoy like the grotesqueness of it. But yeah, anyway, there there are horror puzzle games out there.
Yeah, like if you look at the puzzle tag on Steam, like first you'll just get a lot of games that aren't puzzle games, but then you'll get a lot of horror games. But I think a lot of horror puzzle games are way more horror than puzzle, or
Mm.
they are a type of puzzle that is like not particularly exciting to me as somebody who's
Mm.
interested in the puzzliness of the
Like
puzzle.
Pull this
like a
lever, then this
yeah.
lever.
I was gonna say
Mhm.
a point and click room escape is pretty. I feel like is pretty common.
Yeah. But like it feels like maybe there's like an angle for like, oh, you do good horror and actually good puzzles.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
I'm nodding. I'm nodding.
I'm just saying we could just get Mario on board and we have the horror escape room Dragneck pitch right here.
sure.
I know one listener who's been on the podcast who would buy that in a heartbeat.
Yeah, all of our games have been like really wholesome and family friendly. But next up, we've got
Except
an
for Bonfire
R.
Beats.
I mean, that's still wholesome,
That game was
even
rated
though it has
16
blood.
plus at launch.
Like it's like there's like violence there, but it's still wholesome violence. So like this
You heard it here first. Getting an arrow plunged into your heart while blood comes out is wholesome violence.
it is when you're made of voxels.
Um, goodness. Anyways, that's a whole other story for people. All you need to know is it's 7+ now, and no, we didn't change anything. But yeah, I think like, do you have any other like really key musical inspirations that you pull from other than like the themes of the project?
I mean, I going into a project, I really, I like to figure out like what kind of palette is going to suit it.
Mhm.
If it's, should this game primarily use acoustic instruments and like real instruments, or is this a project that's going to be very like synthesizer focused and very like MIDI based and that kind of thing. And, I also like to put together like references. Like I know for Spooky Express, I found, I went and listened back to a lot of things that I really liked from, Nightmare Before Christmas, or like a Goosebumps video game from the 90s, or whatever, just to see, like, what are the common elements to like a spooky Halloweenish type of game. And yeah, I don't know. I try to cast a wide net. Like, I might pull inspiration from like a song someone uses as a wrestling entrance, or I might pull inspiration from a soundtrack for a movie, or whatever. And I try to keep really wide references, and then I don't, like, pretty much after that first phase, I really don't listen to anything specific. After that point, like, I really try to just like find my own thing, and then just kind of like keep exploring that, and making it more unique and more, my own thing. Yeah, it really kind of changes from project to project too, like how much space there is to explore. Skin Deep, for instance, is a very, like, I've described that soundtrack to people as like it's a fever dream soundtrack.
It
Because
kind of is.
it is. Well, there's so much going on it. Like for that game, I basically, like, most of the music you hear in the game is like stuff you can hear on the radio, or you can collect it on cassette tapes that you find in the levels, and you can listen to them in Nina's little habitat. And so, like, I wanted to give the radio on that the feeling of having a wide range of things, or that, like, the radios can't tune into any one particular station. So you turn it on and you never know what you're going to hear. And that's the kind of feeling I wanted to give to it. So I covered like a ton of different genres and made, fictional ads for items you can use in the game and stuff like that. So it was like all over the place in terms of like style and instrumentation, and like all over the place. And then, for a game like Patrick's Parabox, in comparison, like that was very constrained. Like I really stuck to a very defined palette of sounds and kept things very like we used like the terms like pure and like mathematical a lot when talking about the music in that game. And so, yeah, it really just like, I'm always trying to suit the project as best I can. And I think that's a really, like, one of the things I really like about working on games is that, like, every game I work on is different in some way, even if it's made by, a team I've worked with in the past. And so it's really fun kind of like finding, what does this place sound like, or what does this world sound like, and that kind of thing. With Spooky Express, it's been fun because I've really just been trying to like run the gambit of like Halloween music. Like there's so many different types of music that people kind of consider Halloween music, or music that feels spooky or whatever. And I because we have like, a good amount of like themes and areas across the game, like I wanted to try to introduce like a track here or there that really feels like it defines that area. So that's been really fun, just like running the gambit from like very like spooky, scary skeletons kind of vibes versus like a Silent Hill type of vibe, and making those kind of coexist. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun on this game.
Awesome. Real quick on Parabox. When in the how far was the project along before you joined on?
Oh man, I think I joined on in, I think, 2020.
Okay.
And I think like I came on kind of early in the year, but then I was having like a big move, and I was like wrapping up Jet at the time. And so I think I really kind of started actually working on the game more towards the fall of 2020. Um, and then, yeah, I was kind of just working on it pretty slowly alongside development. I know there was like a good period of time where like things were getting play tested a lot, and a lot of like fine tuning and tweaks and
Mhm.
stuff. And so I just, kept plugging away on on music,
Yeah, because
and
like
then
there
yeah.
there was like a decent chunk of time between you coming on and the game shipping.
Hmm.
Like, but the game itself, like the puzzles went through a lot of iteration, but like
Yeah.
if you look at like what the game like looked like and felt like to play, like it's basically identical throughout that time.
Yeah, like a lot. It was interesting because a lot of that game was like pretty set when I joined, and then yeah, most of the time was just really like fine tuning those puzzles. And I mean, you can tell, you can tell how
Oh,
much like
yes.
iteration and polish those puzzles went through. So yeah, I think like I feel like, you know, that game was pretty ambitious in terms of the amount of music I made for it. Every puzzle area had its own interactive piece of music that changed depending on what was going on while you were playing. And there's a lot of areas in that game.
There's that game is so big.
It's a big game. But I'm glad. And like it's like one of my like biggest sore points from any game I've worked on, but there was so much music in that game that I ended up using one track on two different areas. And people have
disgraceful.
I know, so disgraceful to reuse a piece of music in a game that size, but we've gotten emails about it. Because
Oh my
like
gosh.
the other thing that's really funny though is because they have two different names. And on top of that, when I was doing the final like mix master of the soundtrack, I gave them slightly different treatments. And so they're like not purely identical, but it's the same piece of music. So it's really funny to me. And like it's so funny because like I feel like every once in a while I just get the urge to be like, Patrick, can I make a new piece of music for that one level? can I just make another piece of music? And we can patch it in and just not say anything. Because it's one of those, because it wasn't an intentional choice, it's like something that I'm just like, oh, why? But I don't know, it's been long enough now that it doesn't, I don't wake up
You
in a
should
cold
just
sweat.
have that one area in the game have like a horror vibe. That would be
Yeah,
great.
there we go. Yeah, you have a shadow square following you and it's got a little knife attached to it.
Just go, Patrick. Just go patch the game. Yeah, no, it's funny because, you know, we picked up Parabox for console publishing, which means that Spooky Express is the fourth game with a Priscilla Snow soundtrack that we've published. And it is also the first one that has involved you in pre-production.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, it's fun.
Which is very, you know, I don't know. I'm not trying to pick favorites of your gamography. I will just say that there is so much clever audio going on in Spooky that it makes me really happy. So, and Edge Magazine clearly agrees as well.
I can't. Yeah, I'm still not over that pull quote. That's I made it my my banner on Blue Sky on my profile now.
Incredible. Yeah, it's very, very, very funny, very fun. So, last game I really wanted to hone in on that we hadn't talked about, which is Jet the Far Shore. I want to talk to you about making a conline and like working on
Yeah,
that.
that's a thing I did. Yeah, it was such a strange role to have because I didn't start as that. I initially was just contacted by Andy or Scientific, who's the main composer on the game, and he was interested in bringing me on to help with a choral piece for the game. It's the big choral piece that happens at the start of the game. And he brought me on because I had been posting about my like family history, which is just to say that I'm like my great whatever grandpa was the Sacred Harp music guy, which is to some people a big deal. I like there are videos of people you can find on YouTube of like people singing at his grave, which is interesting to me because I've never even been to it myself. But it was this weird thing where Andy was actually researching Sacred Harp as a source of inspiration for the choral music piece that was in the game. And so when he saw me posting about that, he was like, "Are you interested in chatting about this?" And then we found out we lived in the same neighborhood in Seattle, which was really funny. Like I had just moved there from the Arkansas in the South. Yeah, it was just really funny to be like, oh, we live in the same neighborhood. Let's meet up at this nearby bar and talk about this game and all of that. So I was brought on to write a choral piece. And in order to do that, I needed to know what they were singing. And there was already a kind of like kit bashed conlang in the game that was made by like splitting up different chunks of existing languages and just kind of like mashing them together. And they had been talking about like wanting to make a conlang, but I wasn't like specifically brought on to do that. But when I wrote the choral piece, I started writing initially just like melodies, and then I kind of improvised until I found like words that felt natural to sing to the melody I had written. And so I transcribed those kind of like just random words that I made up and gave them meaning and presented that to them. And then they were like, this is really good. Do you want to keep making this bigger and make it into a conlang? And, I was looking for more work at the time. So I was like, yeah, I can do that. I think I'm not a linguist. I like languages and stuff. Yeah, that's kind of how that happened. And so the seed of that conlang was just like the stuff I wrote for the choral music that plays at the beginning of the game. And then, yeah, I basically would get like English scripts and translate those English scripts into my conlang. And the dictionary just kept growing because, every page of the script would have a word that I hadn't previously transcribed, came up with a translation for. And I had to like try to make things feel like there was some sense of logic to them and like how they're structured and how they sound next to each other and the sort of grammar in it. And I basically just used like English grammar because I was like, I'm already a little in over my head. I don't need to invent a new grammar system for this.
Save that for your second conlang.
Yeah, for sure. Like syntax, keeping that basic. But yeah, it was really interesting because like I was the only person who could ostensibly like understand the conlang. Like at a certain point, I could basically just like say a sentence off the dome, like translating things without having to consult the dictionary, which was a very strange feeling.
And is that still like active in your brain? Could you still do that?
I mean, not really. Like I still remember some things. Like, Mineld Harisham is like my old friend. Aisho is like I'll versus like Aish is I. That kind of thing. But yeah, there for a while I was like, I could just like pull that out as a party trick if I wanted to. But yeah, no, now I'm it's been, enough years where I like if I went through the dictionary maybe, but yeah.
And just to give a sense of scale, like how long were you doing that process? Like how long did that take you in the end?
Gosh, a while. I feel like the initial creating and translating stuff, I think I was working on that for at least a year. If you start it from when I wrote the choral piece, maybe a little longer than that. And it wasn't like constant. But yeah, a lot of my time was initially spent translating scripts. And then we actually realized that like we didn't have enough time in the recording booth with the actors to like translate every single line in the game. So then I had to work with A Shell in the Pit, who's a really, really fantastic audio studio that works on a ton of games. And I worked with them on a tool which let us have some flexibility with the language. And so we kind of decided that in the cutscenes or the kind of like more scripted moments, those would be like purely, these are translated. This is like as if it was being localized into that language. And then for the kind of like outside of the kind of like home base when you're out in the world, that would be what we called like fragment based. And the way that worked was that we chose things that were kind of like important words that would be consistent. And then there were other things that were nonsense fragments, which sound and mimic the conlang, sound like and mimic the conlang, but are not literal translation. And this let us build the rest of the game from these like fragments that I wrote up. And I had to like write these fragments in ways where when you put them side by side, it sounds fairly natural. Because it is, I don't know if anyone knows this, but it's really hard to make randomness sound natural. So it was a really hands-on thing for me. Like, we actually tried to do randomization of the fragments where essentially like the vocabulary words would be tagged and those would be present. Like if there was a vocabulary word like a Goka Bloom or, the jet, which is what they fly on, or a character's name, those would be tagged and they would be in the sentence. And then the rest would just be random. But it created this kind of like uncanny valley sometimes where like it sounded stilted. So I ended up hand authoring every single line in the game.
Unbelievable.
No.
Yes, it took so long to do. And like it was really funny because to me at that point I was like, it would have been shorter to just have the actors record everything, but okay. So yeah, every single line in the game was hand authored by me. It was really funny because like, we had gotten all of the actors and I also acted as a character. I voiced Caro in the game. And we recorded all of these nonsense fragments. And like the nonsense fragments almost became their own vocabulary because like I would go into a sentence and be like, oh, I bet Aisho Makia or whatever would fit really well here. Like take 3. I'm going to do like, it's like I could hear all of these people's like takes just like in my head by the end of this. And so, yeah, I mean, it was really good for job security in the sense that no one else had a handle on it the way I did. But it also was like, man, it was pretty intense. But yeah, that was, I think, probably the strangest thing I've done on a game to date. Yeah.
Incredible. Do you have any questions for us?
Oh, I'm so bad at questions.
I mean, I could ask you more, but
I mean, I'm really bad at asking questions. But I am good at finding answers. Here's the thing.
incredible.
I love solving puzzles. I don't think I'm very good at designing them.
Okay. How about I just completely knock you off kilter? Who would win in a fight, Gotenks or Piccolo?
Piccolo, obviously.
Okay. Just a question that I knew you wouldn't be expecting.
I've got I can see 3 different Piccolos from my desk, okay?
Oh, I'm not asking your favorite. I'm not asking who would win the battle for your heart.
Gotenks, like, is very strong, but also he's a
Deeply
fool.
unserious.
Deeply
Yes.
unserious, yes. Yeah, like, I don't know. I think, like, I'm curious to know, like, what is like the weirdest or like the most like out of left field type of game you think that Drachnek could potentially make in the future? Like if you were just like, no concern about like budget or time frame or the state of the world or any of those like extraneous factors, like what's like the biggest swing that you'd be interested in taking?
Nintendo published Legend of Zelda.
That's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, it kind of like depends on the timeline. If you go like 10, 15 years out, could be anything. Like I'm very pragmatic short term, but like if we got like millions of dollars, you're like, oh, you could just do anything. Like in some ways that would be like too terrifying. That would be like too much choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean something puzzly, but like uh, within that space, there's a lot of games that aren't just soccer band games.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked about pitching a Zelda game, and it's a terrifying thought that we will not do. But
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know, like I said, I love puzzle games. Like I've talked to y'all about this just like in work. But I only realized the other day that one of my first like favorite games was a puzzle game. Like I was obsessed with The Incredible Machine as a kid. And so like unbeknownst to me, I've been playing puzzle games since I was like 6 or whatever. um so yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I like what we've been doing on Spooky Express, and I really like how characterful it is, and like how specific the spaces and everything. So I'm just like, what kind of shenanigans could we get up to with some, like, I don't know, a game that has like a full narrative direction and that kind of thing, but is still like, set in a puzzle mechanic and that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm very curious to see what happens in the future and what kind of games are being made.
I mean, detective games are hot right now. They have stories. I feel like I think you'd have a lot of fun doing the music for like a game like that.
Oh yeah, like a noir. Oh my
Mm.
god, please! I would have so much fun.
What does cozy noir look like? Because I feel like that's the vibe.
Okay, cozy noir, immediately, like the first thing that comes to mind, which maybe to some people feels a little obvious, but like, have you watched any of the anime Spy Family?
No.
Absolutely.
Okay, like the first thing that comes to mind is not even like the core premise of that show, but specifically Anya, the little girl who's
Yes.
like a
Yep.
mind reader. Because she's always like going around and she's like, I'm gonna solve this thing and I'm gonna just find out what mommy and daddy are doing, and like doing all this stuff. And it's very funny because she's like interpreting the actions of adults through her like child mind, and like, always going on, solving cases and stuff. She's obsessed with this like spy cartoon called Bond Man.
Yes.
So that's like where my mind goes, is like cozy noir would be like a little kid, solving mysteries, or the other example that comes to mind is like the noir episode of Adventure Time with BMO.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really good
I think all of these references are going over Alan's head.
Yeah, I'm none of these
Alan
are
does not
familiar
watch
to me.
TV.
I
So-
watch TV. I don't watch a lot of anime.
So, Alan, the premise of Spy Family is there's a world famous spy who needs to pose in a family, and the person that he chooses to pose as his fake wife is a lethal assassin, and they adopt a daughter, and the daughter is a mind reader, and then they get a dog, and the dog can see the future.
Yeah, no, that sounds like a normal premise.
Yeah.
And the spy and the assassin do not know each other's identities.
Yeah, sure.
But
Yeah.
the kid can
Obviously.
read minds, so the kid knows everything.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
But only from the perspective of a kid.
Yep.
Yeah. Seems deeply silly in a way that sounds about on track.
Yeah. It's
yes.
it's very, very cute. It's like it's it's a pretty straightforward show. You get all those elements together, but yeah,
it's a little sitcom-y.
It's a little sitcom-y, but it does have some like very sweet moments. And I do just like enjoy the like little kid logic aspect of the Anya character.
Yes.
But yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like you could easily do noir. I think it really depends on the setting, right? Like what are the stakes in that setting?
Yeah, like Duck Detective is another example of cozy
yeah,
noir.
Yeah. And yeah, I don't know. Like I feel like there's a lot of like ways you could do that and have it be a kind of twist on the idea, or like less straightforward, I guess. I do love some noir flavor investigations and you
Yes.
know.
All right, before we wrap, I think Alan wanted to tell you something.
Yeah, I mean, so this came up on a previous podcast.
The one with Adam.
Priscilla, would you like to guess how many instruments Syrenne knows how to play?
I'm bad at guessing. I don't know. Like I hate throwing out random number guesses.
Just guess.
5.
Like all of them?
Huh.
Yeah, I don't know. I've toured Europe with violin. I have taught all of the orchestra instruments, and I know how to play all the any instrument that would be in like a full orchestra with the band instruments there. And I can do full percussion suite, and I can do handbells, and I can do one-off instruments pretty comfortably.
So you wanna do an orchestral track for a Dragonite game? We've got the entire band right here.
No, that's good because string instruments like violin and such are my absolute weak point.
Gotcha. Yeah, no, I'm very used to transcribing and adapting people who write for piano and flute and then are just like, you can play this on violin, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, the instrument doesn't go that low,
Yeah.
or or in some edge cases, can I shift the whole thing an octave down?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, no, it's I've definitely had music presented to me as like, the violin should be able to play this, right? And then the lowest instrument is 4 lines above the treble. And I'm like, I mean, maybe, but it's gonna sound not right. You're not gonna get the lush tones that you're looking for.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I feel like it's so funny because when I am working on music, I am constantly like paying attention to that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, because sometimes I'm thinking to myself like, oh, it'd be really cool if like someone played this at some point, like
Yeah.
because like I'm not a pianist. I am very very mediocre piano player, but I try to write things, in a way where someone could ostensibly play it. And sometimes I start from like, trying to play it myself and then I clean it up. But yeah, that is something like I try to think about a lot when I'm writing because I'm like, if it's, this instrument like that I'm going
Yeah.
for.
Can that instrument reasonably play it?
Yeah.
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 That I will say, if you do need a sanity check on that, I do know. I do know the range on all of these instruments.
Awesome.
I have it's probably like I would need to do a full string replacement. The only instrument I have here in my apartment is my electric 5-string violin,
Ooh.
um, which is a violin that has the string that a viola also has. So it's perfect for teaching. So you don't need to swap instruments between violin and viola.
Nice.
And it has it is an acoustic instrument that also has a 1/4-inch amp jack.
Oh. Yeah, that's
Um,
handy.
so for recording or for broadcasting on a stage.
Nice.
Yes, just it's gotten me out of some jams. It's not an off the shelf instrument either. I got it second hand after someone deeply modded the hell out of their instrument, and I'm like, hell yeah! And it
That's
still sounds
awesome.
great in acoustic. So I'm like, well, you did a bang up job. I can play whole sonatas on this thing, and it just sounds like an acoustic. So whatever.
Nice. Yeah, I'm like I don't know. I have like pet instruments, like banjo is like one of my pet instruments that
Yeah.
I've gone a little harder in on and learning technique and stuff, but yeah, I've got I don't know, like next to me I've got my trumpet, an electric bass guitar, 2 electric guitars,
Yeah.
my acoustic parlor guitar, a recorder. I've got my like here. Guess the instrument. Hold on. Do.
I mean, oh, okay. Ooh, I had it until I absolutely lost it. So it's not a harmonic. Is that an accordion sounding like a harmonica?
It's one of the little oh my god, melodica.
Oh yes, it's
Yeah,
melodica.
I
Yep.
used it. The reason it's on my desk is because I mixed some melodica chords in with the disappointed train sounds when you fail a level in Spooky Express.
Great. Yeah, no, love that. I can. Again, I can talk music for hours, but I wanted, instead of just this being a music theory podcast where Alan just goes, I did want to talk about games.
Hey, if the two of you want to do a music theory podcast without me, go right ahead.
I don't know
We can put that out on the Dragneck feed.
You know, it's really funny. That could actually be entertaining because I actually, like, in terms of, like, being able to talk about the math of music theory, I got nothing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I am a vibes-based composer.
No, I genuinely really respect that and like love that for you. I treat music as an art and music composition as a science. That's like how my brain works. It's like it treats them differently for some reason. Like as soon as I start writing notes, I'm like, all right, what's the Phrygian here? And I'm like, okay, we are way past
Phrygian running is about all I got.
Is your Phrygian running?
That's about all I got.
Yeah, great. This is phenomenal. Thank you again for joining us, Priscilla. It's been a blast getting to talk to you again. Where can people find you online, and do you have anything you want to plug?
Yeah, pretty much the only place I'm online these days is Blue Sky.
R.I.P. co-host.
Yeah, RIP co-host. I'm at Ghoul Noise there. I've got my website /blog that I haven't been using as often as I should. That's ghoulnoise.com. And you can find my music on Bandcamp, and you can get there by going to ghoulnoisemusic.com. I just recently got myself a fancy little URL to make that easier.
Do you want me to change the outro of the podcast to use that instead of... I've been saying ghoulnoise.bandcamp.com.
I mean, yeah, sure. ghoulnoisemusic.com. It's just,
great. I'll make that change right now, and then we'll... love a vanity URL.
Yeah.
If anyone's looking to hire me, you can go to Syrenne.com and you'll find my LinkedIn. Because my first name is rare enough that my whole brand can just be my first name. Awesome. Well, thank you very much again for joining. It's been a pleasure. And thank you for listening to the Dragneck and Friends official podcast. Our music is by Priscilla Snow, who you can find at the newly founded ghoulnoisemusic.com. Our podcast artwork is by Adam DeGrandis. Our podcast is edited by Melanie Zawodniak. Please rate and review us on your podcast service of choice, and be sure to tune in next episode for more interesting conversations.